Hi, my name's Steven. I'm a musician and a teacher. I feel that through music or performing arts, we most clearly give value to people by helping them feel good. However, it's often so much easier for anyone in everyday life to help people feel good through their regular interactions. Why not help everyone around us try to feel good? It benefits everyone, including ourselves. Aside from it just being nice, people like people that make them feel good. And good things flow to people who people like. Also, I'm not saying to be insincere with any of this. We don't need to be sucking up or doing things with ulterior motives of expecting something in return. But sometimes it's good to consciously break down and consider social interactions. If we recognize when there are opportunities to help people feel good, then we can help more good feeling exist in the world. So, here is a quick list of 11 ways to help people feel good in your regular life interactions. I might call these social rewards. How do you reward or give positive to people in social environments? How do you make them feel good? Number 1. Affectionate gestures or body language. So for example, you might have a high five reward. So you just finished a project, or you just finished a game, or you just finished whatever task or joint activity. High five, good job. Another example of an affectionate gesture or body language would be the full body pivot. So someone walks into the room or comes near you, you pivot your full body towards them to show your full attention, to show that you're fully interested in this interaction. So that helps people feel good. Another type of affectionate gesture might be a hug in the right situation. So not always appropriate, but in a situation where it's appropriate, sometimes giving a hug can just feel really good. There can be other examples where touch in the right situation is a positive and maybe welcome thing. So maybe a comforting touch on the arm, or in some cultures, like in Europe, there's kind of kiss on each cheek when greeting. Be careful with your cultural and social context, but sometimes that is a lovely, affectionate gesture that can be appreciated. Number 2, compliments and praise that are sincere. Also, thanks that is sincere. So if you can give a compliment, praise, or thanks to someone in a way that's sincere, why not do it? Help people feel good. A compliment only diminishes you if you let it, is something I heard from someone I admire. This being said, there are some ways where compliments, praise, or thanks can come across as insincere, so it's worth thinking about that a little bit. There's a lot of people who go into the topic of that. Maybe the easiest way with any of these things is to make it very specific. So praise people, compliment people on very specific things that are maybe more in their control of work put in, and maybe try not to do it so much on things that are superficial. Number 3, help a person out, whatever their goal. This could be lending a hand, or passing on resources, or passing on information, or passing on an opportunity. So support people with whatever they are working towards, especially if it's easy. Some grain of salt asterisks: help people all the time if the cost to you is not too high. So it is possible to exhaust yourself, your energy, your time, your money, helping people. You have to put some boundaries for your well-being, but if it's easy and the cost to you is small, just always help people out. You have no idea how your actions that might seem small could possibly be such a big deal to someone on the receiving side. Number 4, be a cheerleader. Cheer people on. Support them in whatever they are doing. Everyone needs a cheerleader. Life is often difficult. Everyone's got struggles. You have no idea what people are struggling with. Just cheer them on. Be a supportive person. I really like, from my experience, a word I got from living in South Korea. It's actually an English word that has been co-opted to Korean. No one in English really uses it this way, but I love it. So the word fighting has been taken as like a rallying cry in South Korea, except they don't have an F sound, so it's a hua. So when you want to cheer someone on through the difficulty they're going through or whatever challenge they're facing, you say, Hoiting! Number 5, give attention. Be present. Be an active listener. Be a good listener. Ask questions. Show interest. People really appreciate it when you show interest in them. And pretty much universally, most people's favorite topic in any conversation will probably be themselves and the things they're pursuing. So if you can ask questions about them, it helps a person feel good. As a broad generalization for so many conversations, the more often a person is talking about themselves in a conversation and the things that they are interested in, the happier that person will feel about that interaction and the interaction with you. They will feel good about being around you when you show this interest in them. Number 6, give energy. Be alert, be smiling, be positive. Positive moods are infectious, so if you're feeling good, if you're positive, if you have that energy to bring, it helps people around you feel good. So also, do whatever necessary to protect your energy levels, to protect your positive mood, to protect your good feelings. So you have to have these good feelings in order to share them with people to help them feel good. Number 7, give a fun shared interaction. 2 parts to this. Part A, if you have a shared interest, sharing this activity that you both enjoy is just such a great way of sharing positive feeling. Part B to this, in conversation, a fun shared interaction is usually through humor and banter. While it can be cool to trade ideas and share information, more often sharing information and ideas is less how you help people feel good. So your humor, your banter, your playful way with words, and your playful way of delivering information is more often how you're going to help people feel good in a conversation. So actually, a lot can be learned from dating experts here about these interactions, and these interactions don't apply just to dating, but to interactions with anyone. So if you want to learn more about how to banter and have humor in your conversation, just go on YouTube and do a search. There's all sorts of people talking about that, and I'm sure countless books. Anyways, the way you're going to share information for a conversation that's logical, which does have value, is likely not how you're going to have an exchange with someone where you help them feel something in your conversation. Number 8, empathize. Try to show you care about how someone feels. There can be a lot of learned tricks to show empathy to, and it's funny, some humans don't seem very empathetic, but even robots can do things that mimic empathy. Some things you could do as a human is you can exhibit active listening. One trick might be to echo things people say. One trick might be to echo things people say? Yeah, that would be one trick. Another trick to show empathy would be to mood match. So if someone is showing this level of energy, if you can show that level of energy, it shows that you're both excited. You're sharing the same level of energy of emotion. Whereas if someone is kind of talking like this, they're a little lower energy. If you come in blasting with so much energy, that'll be too much for the person who's feeling lower energy. So if you can talk to the other person in a lower energy way, then people feel, yeah, like this person is on the same vibe as me, and it feels good. It feels, in some ways, a bit social reward to feel that someone is matching you on your mood level, on your energy level. Another quick little trick for empathy or active listening would be words to show you are listening. That's right. Uh-huh. Oh yeah, that's so cool. Okay. So little things like that, these little fillers, and maybe switching them up, not the same one every time. If you say uh-huh, 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 then maybe you don't seem like you're listening or, that empathetic to the situation. So also with empathizing, we can empathize in real life, we can empathize in person. Another aspect of this can also be with our online or texting communication now. So there's ways of showing some sort of empathy or caring with this. So it could be reactions now. So there's this whole thumb up reaction on so much of social media, and now more recently you can react to messages in texting. Those reactions are sort of a version of empathy, as can also be commenting on things, sharing or subscribing or whatever. So these are ways of kind of online or digitally empathizing or kind of showing support. Number 9, remember things about people. Track them a little bit. Especially remember their name. So do your best to remember names. Names are hard, especially when you interact with large quantities of people. There can be all sorts of tricks to remembering names. If you're, say, a teacher, you might use software with the person's picture and name and put them together, and I don't know, if you're teaching, make a map of the classroom. But in another situation, you might make little notes about people and write notes about interactions. So something I really like doing in some situations is making notes on important people in interactions or things I should remember, but I might not be able to remember. So maybe my most fun example story of this is I use a note-taking app on my phone that's cloud computing. I used to use Evernote, now I'm using OneNote. It syncs on my phone and my computer, and any idea that I've had at any point I can recall quickly. Anyways, when I go and I would be a substitute teacher, I walk into a school and, who are the people who I have to interact with first? The secretaries, okay. And these secretaries are important people. They're the people who might call me into work, might tell me where to go. As a substitute teacher, I would have some relation with the secretaries, or at least I would see them regularly. But then, hey, if you walk into a whole bunch of different schools, will you remember? Are you just kind of living one day at a time? I would take notes on the secretaries at the very least when I walk into a school. Well, often teachers, the interactions I had to try and remember when just going into a place for a day. So I might just walk in and say, oh, hey, Jill, do you still bike to work every day? Oh, hey, Sally, is your favorite color still purple? Oh, hey, Susan, do you still drink lots of lemonade? Anyways, so yeah, that would be a thing. If I have an interaction with someone, something like that is kind of a little bit silly, but I would just ask the secretary, hey, tell me one interesting thing about you. I'm going to write a note about it. And the next time I see you, I am going to ask you about that one thing you told me. Walking into so many situations, you can't remember everything, but you can try to remember at least one thing about a person and try and have a memorable exchange, try and have a cool story showing that you care. Oh yeah, and of course, with some people, if you can connect on social media, that can be a useful thing. And then you see their name pop up a bunch about things they're interested in, they see your name, and helps you both remember each other. So people generally feel good if you try to care about them, if you try and remember things about them. Remembering someone's name and saying someone's name. Someone's name is one of the sweetest things they will ever hear. It feels good to a person when they hear their name said. So if you can say, hey Susan, it's good to see you again. Hey Susan, hey Bob. People like it when they hear their name. Number 10, gifts or tokens of appreciation. So if you feel good about someone, or it's a birthday or a holiday, or for any reason, maybe it's a celebration or congratulations on something. Giving a gift is a very kind of literal reward. There can be like a physical thing that you give. This is the most literal of all of these rewards. There is a business person online that I follow who says this thing I kind of like. Never stifle a generous urge. I think that's kind of a cool thing. Like, if you feel good about giving something to someone, just give to someone. You know, I can say that with a grain of salt because maybe you don't have all the money in the world, maybe you don't have all the resources, time, whatever. We do have limited resources. However, there is good reason to practice being generous. So, not that you should do things for selfish reasons per se, but there are rewards that come back to you from being a generous and kind person. And sometimes they're hard to kind of quantify. If you are an employer or someone with some sort of role of authority or whatever, if you are trying to get some sort of result from people, if you need people to do things from you, there is a maximum amount you can get from anyone if they're just doing their job. So if you're just saying, hey, I'm going to give you what you need for these situations and I'm going to fit the expectation for a situation, there is a maximum amount you will get out of anyone for just doing the expectation. But if you want people to go above and beyond, it's harder to quantify. But if people really like you, if you've done things for people, if you've given things to people without any expectation of return, a lot of times people will go above and beyond for you, more than you can get from just a typical situation of a typical paycheck. You can give things to people that are unique to the person, give a gift that is specifically useful, specifically valued to a person. That can make a person feel good. I'm not saying, just give trinkets or things people won't care about. For me personally, if I'm giving gifts, I like to know that there is this thing that would be useful for this person. I know this would make a difference in this person's life. I'm going to give this thing to this person. Maybe this person doesn't know it, but this thing would be very appreciated by the person. If I know it would be really appreciated, if I know it would be useful, I feel really good about giving in that kind of way. Another social skills kind of book I read at one point, I'm not even sure I remember which one, it talked about how one of the most famous presidents of the US, as he was running for presidency, part of how he got to where he got and how he went through, all the powers and stuff to get up there. This person could get so many people to do things for him, so many people to come help him out in any situation. And part of the reason he was able to do it was because he was in a habit of giving to people all the time. He was always giving favors, giving support, helping people out all the time without thinking of anything in return. But then, if it did come to a point where he did need something, there were people who felt like they owed him a favor. They were indebted to him. They felt they could come and help him out. So I'm not saying you should do things and give favors because you're expecting this in return or whatever. You're expecting people to help you out. But that could be a side effect. Just give because it feels nice. Give because it helps people. And when you help other people, they might choose to later help you. So number 11, this is a little more subtle. Another kind of social reward I would say is multimodal communication. I mean this in that you are being musical when you speak. Oh, hey, I'm talking with my hands right now. I'm not saying you always have to talk with your hands, which might be, stereotypes of some cultures. Some cultures are more expressive that way. But when you are more expressive, when you're blending body language with actual words, which intonation in your voice, with visual and audio, or maybe some touch as appropriate. Blending these different types of communication makes that communication feel more real, more tangible. It engages people on multiple levels. In the same way that people who are really experienced with these YouTube videos, these editors, they are blending sounds and lighting and effect and cutting scenes and stuff. So to some extent, these tactics of engagement, the multimodality of it that you can see in a lot of these online videos that really grab attention, you can do some version of that in real life that makes your communication more exciting, more engaging, more rewarding. So while this list is for general interactions, this idea of social rewards might be thought of a little bit differently in romantic contexts. Like famously how Dr. Gary Chapman has worded a similar concept with his book, The 5 Love Languages. So Dr. Chapman would say there are 5 main love languages. So there are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. In the context of love or romance, these are all rewarding. When people speak our love language, we feel good. So in both our general interactions and our romantic interactions, can we speak someone's love language? And can we try to love everyone a little bit, even outside of a romantic context? So if you make it a habit of speaking people's love languages, so to speak, or giving them social rewards, in another way of thinking of a similar concept, people will appreciate you for it, and you help people to feel good. If you do freelance or gig work, or you're self-employed, more people will want to work with you. And if you're looking for friends or a romantic partner, people will appreciate your emotional in-tuneness, your social intelligence, and how you help them feel. So a lot of times people feel like you're either just good with social situations and social interactions, or you're not. You're either born with it or you're not. And this is not true, and it has not been true for me. While some people might be a lot more natural with their social skills, for someone like me, it is much more a learned skill. When I was a little bit younger, I remember I went to this conference at the University of Toronto. It was a week-long session with a percussion group called NEXUS, which if you're in the classical world, people know about them. If you're not in the classical world, then you might not know about them. NEXUS had this week-long percussion workshop at the U of T. It was great. I learned a lot about music, and there were a lot of great people from all around the world. And I got to the end of the week, and I realized I just didn't feel like I connected with all these amazing, wonderful people as well as I could have. So I walked over to the local Indigo bookstore, the closest one to the University of Toronto. I walked in, I thought, hey, I'm going to find a book on talking to people. How could I be better at talking to people? And I found this book, How to Talk to Anyone, with the subtitle, 92 Little Tricks for Big Success in Relationships. So this is the first book on people skills, on interactions that I read. I thought this was great. Obviously, there are so many more books you can look up. But this particular one broke down a lot of people skills and interactions into little tricks you could do, little ideas you could implement in your social interactions, which could help you start conversations and help people feel good. So while reading this book, I started thinking about these ideas and I started testing them in conversations. I started saying, if I use this technique of playing detective, for example, I'm going to pretend I'm a Sherlock Holmes. I'm going to try and figure out what this person is really interested in. And if I'm playing detective, if I'm trying to figure out their interest, trying to be an attentive listener, looking for clues as to what they might want to talk about, what they're interested in. If I take that approach, for example, with that one little trick, I might come across as a more attentive listener. I might actually be a more attentive listener. People might think I'm more empathetic or more caring. It's kind of funny how if you get a book on how to talk to people, you might get better at talking to people. I certainly did. So framing some of these ideas as categories of social rewards is one way I have thought about recently for how you help people feel good. I hope that through your everyday interpersonal interactions, as much as any professional interaction, you are regularly taking steps to help people feel good. And I also hope that you grow in your abilities to help people feel good.